Hey everyone, this is Stellar Firefly, and it's time to get started with the Overpoch Origins Playground series, or OOPS. This video will be Stage 1, where we will perform the first steps of our setup. And by first steps, I mean the very basics, essentially only those steps that we've covered before in other video tutorials. This stage is of course still necessary because we still need to get all of it done to start out with. But instead of just starting out by saying, here's what we've already done, but I'm not going to show you how, we'll actually go through these steps again, but all at once and in a single video. Because of this, we won't spend a whole lot of time and go through all the details here. Instead, we'll just quickly run through the steps, and then at the end I'll provide some clickable links to go to the full tutorial videos for each step, just in case any of you need to go check them out for all the full details. What we will do in this video is to discuss in detail some of the choices that we make and options that we select for our server setup and configuration. We'll discuss why we're doing what we're doing, providing the reasons behind them all. Of course, for your own server, you can choose to do things differently, whether it's to use or not use certain add-ons, or to configure them differently to suit your own tastes. But we'll at least go over the reasons for it all so that you can make a more informed decision for your own server. The very first step, of course, is to install our choice of mod and map combination from the mod manager. As stated in the intro video, our goal for the playground is Overpoch Origins on the good old Taviana map. So we'll just head over to our TCadmin control panel and make sure that our server is stopped. As always, we can't make changes to a running server. Then we'll go to the mod manager and make sure everything else is uninstalled. We've already uninstalled all mods from this server, so we'll go straight to DayZ Overpoch Origins Taviana and click on the install link right across from it. We'll wait until the progress bar closes itself, then fire up the server and our client and log in to make certain that it's up and running correctly. This is something that I always recommend and repeated it in many of my tutorial vids. After every major step, and even before any configuration, fire up the server and connect to it just to make sure that everything is running correctly. This will allow us to narrow down any problems very quickly and easily, if we find any, and so we'll be doing this a lot during this video series. Remember that we have made no changes or customizations at this point, but at the very least the server should be running and with the proper mod and map. Step 2, let's customize the basic Epic server settings. For this change, we'll use the TCadmin Control Panel File Manager simply because it's easiest. In the Control Panel, we'll first shut down our server, then we'll choose File Manager, and then navigate to MP Missions, DayZ_epic_13.tavi. Find our init.sqf file, and then click on the pencil icon right across from it. We can be certain that this is the correct folder because we're running on the Taviana map, and none of the other folders have the Tavi name. Here, we'll pick and choose some settings that'll allow us to customize the server to our theme. And here is where we'll probably be spending a lot of time in this video, simply discussing the various customizations and our choices for them, and their effects on the theme of our server. First, we'll find both max vehicle limit and max dynamic debris, which are already predefined, and set both of these values to 100. The Epic defaults are actually 50 and 100, and the GTX Gaming defaults are a whopping 300 and 700. I found through experience that only 50 vehicles on the map may seem more, quote, realistic for a zombie apocalypse setting, but even with a very low player count like 4 or 5, which is what the playground server usually sees, vehicles are still extremely difficult to find. 100 works well for the playground, making vehicles difficult but not impossible to find for such a low population server. There's also the balancing issue of purchasable vehicles, which is probably why Epic defaults to only 50. You don't need a lot of vehicles on the map if it's not difficult to just farm up a few guns, sell them, and then buy your own vehicles. So a 100 vehicle limit will probably work for up to, maybe 20 to 25 players? A busy server with 30 plus players may want to bump it up to, say, 150 or so, to keep them rare but not impossible for new players who can't afford to buy their own yet. But as always, tailor it to your own server and theme. Keep it at the GTX default of 300 if you want vehicles to be littered everywhere, so that it's easy for players to find several of them at once, even on high population servers. The debris amount is mostly a matter of taste. The Epic default of 100 just seems good to me, making them not too difficult to find, and also not providing any player who has a crowbar with huge amounts of free vehicle parts. The rest of our changes will be new values, not changing any existing values. I'd like to add them right after the vehicle and debris setting, but adding them any place near the top of the init.sqf file is fine, as long as it's before where the script loads in these other files. All of these settings I just keep in a text file on my local system so that I can just copy and paste them every time I have to configure a new server. Hopefully, most of you won't have to continuously reconfigure new servers, but it may be helpful to keep your own text file anyway, just in case something goes wrong. For this video, I'll just paste it all in at once, and then we'll talk briefly about each setting in turn. First, the initial loadout. We'll start Playground players with an M9 and a single 15-round magazine, just to give them at least a fighting chance if they happen to spawn with AI bandits in the vicinity, which we'll be adding later. Though those of you who've tried to take down AI bandits with a pistol probably know that it's not a very good chance, but at least it's something. They'll also have the usual flashlight and painkillers, but we'll also start them off with 1 food, 1 drink, a few bandages, a map, a hatchet, and a terminal pack, which is bigger than the default patrol pack, but not by much. It's not a huge starting advantage, and for the most part it doesn't help that much to fight AI bandits, but it does help to run away from them should the player be unlucky enough to spawn with them nearby. The primary reasoning is that it's enough to get a brand new player started without being too frustrating, but it's gear that a veteran player will probably find mostly useless after just the first 5 minutes of play. We'll also enable blood self-transfusions for 4,000 points and on a 5-minute cooldown, with a 0.1% chance of infection. That's a good 1/3 of a player's blood supply, which can be very helpful, but it's not a massive amount, not even against basic rifle or shotgun damage. The 5-minute cooldown is the biggest factor, because that's a long-ass time if you're in the middle of a firefight. For the most part, it's good for either a one-shot boost to prevent yourself from dying, or to top yourself off during quiet periods. The whole infection mechanic really isn't a big deal in DayZ, more of an annoyance than anything with the easy availability of antibiotics, but we'll keep it there with a really tiny chance. We're forcing name tags simply because Stellar Firefly's Overpoch Origins Playgrounds is strictly a PvE server. Not much else to say here, except of course, turn this off if your server allows PvP. Increasing the view distance from the default of, I think, 1500 meters makes for a cooler gaming experience. It doesn't automatically make all players able to see this far under all circumstances, and effects such as fog and rain will still hinder player vision. The drawback, of course, is game performance, and to a lesser degree, balance, especially for those players with low-end computers. Giving a sniping advantage to someone just because they have a better graphics card is kinda dubious. I found that a 2500 meter view distance is a decent balance, and these days it really hinders only those with very low-end graphics. Death messages is one of those options that many admins consider more associated with PvE servers, thinking that it destroys immersion on PvP servers. But even then, there's a lot of PvP servers out there that also use it, because sometimes it's just plain fun to see your enemies, and your friends, have their deaths announced. It doesn't affect a strictly PvE server much, so we'll just enable it for the fun factor. Now, removing the plot pull requirements. This is actually something that we will not be doing for the Overpoch Origins Playground server, so just imagine that these 2 lines do not exist. Haha. I'll actually delete them after I'm done making this video. Why did we used to have them disabled on previous servers, and why will we be enabling them again on the Playground? That'll be the topic of a future video. And finally, players respawning as Zeds if they die while infected. Yeah, okay, it's kind of an interesting mechanic, and it's up to you if you'd rather keep it on your own server. But I've personally found that every time a player respawns as a Zed, all they do is immediately try to kill themselves off anyway, so that they can respawn as a human again. So yeah, we'll just disable it on the Playground. Okay, that's it for the changes in the init.sqf file. Let's not forget to actually save the changes by clicking on the Save button up top, and then making certain that it says the file was saved. There's actually one more change that we want to make to our Overpoch Origins Playground server at this time, but it's not located in the init.sqf file. The change we want to make is to remove the zones for the trader cities. Why do that? It actually has some interesting effects on gameplay that we've really enjoyed on previous servers. The biggest change is that it'll allow building construction within a trader city, so players will be able to fortify major trade locations. Add to this the fact that we will allow both AI bandits and zombies within the trader cities themselves, and we will not give players any kind of extra protection when they are located there, and you can probably start to imagine its implications. This would be a tough call on PvP servers, where some players like the extra chaos that trader cities create, while others absolutely hate it. So it would be totally up to you. But with the Playground being strictly PvE, it actually adds an interesting facet to the game. The easiest way to disable traitor city zones is within the mission.sqm file, which is located in the same directory as the init.sqf file that we just finished editing. So we'll find the mission.sqm and click on the pencil icon across from it to start editing it. The line we want to find has the text class sensors, so we'll just use our browser's find function, usually Control F. On an Epic or Overpoch Taviana map, it'll default to having 4 subclass items. All we need to do is change this initial value here from 4 to 0. The trade zone definitions will still be defined within the class, but all the code that iterates through them will iterate through 0 items, thus effectively disabling all of the zones. Again, let's not forget to click on the Save button and make sure that it tells us the files were saved. At this point, we'll fire up our server again and try to connect to it with our client just to make sure that everything is still up and running. We'll check as many of the changes that we just made as we possibly can, which shouldn't take too long, especially if we make use of some Infostar admin abilities. We can first kill ourselves to make sure that we have the proper starting loadout. Then we can teleport ourselves to a hospital, get ourselves hurt a bit, and then try to self-administer a blood transfusion. Then we can teleport over to a trader city and make sure that we don't receive a notice that we're entering it. And then we can even attempt to log out. If the trader city zone were still in effect, then it would not allow us to log out inside of the trader city. Well, you get the idea. We'll try to test out as much of the changes as we can, especially if they're really easy to test, before moving forward. Instead of making you sit and watch all of my testing, though, I'll just go ahead and say that everything checked out so far. For our next steps, and continuing doing those things that we've already covered in detail in other videos, let's install some of our add-ons. First, we'll install DZAI, which will cover most of the AI features that we mentioned we wanted in the introductory video. Namely, it'll cover basic city AI, dynamic AI, and also roaming air and ground vehicles. Then we'll also install the Walking Dead add-on and the Snap Build Pro add-on, 2 more add-ons that we wanted running in the playground and that we've already covered in detail in my other video tutorials. Because we've done these before, it should be quick and easy for us now, but we'll also glance through their install instructions again just in case the newest versions of these add-ons included changes to their installation processes. For DZAI, we'll just do a quick Google search to find the GitHub URL, then download it, and also glance at the install instructions. It looks like they still want us to add a line to the server_monitor.sqf file within the server.pbo file, and also copy the DZAI folder into it. Cool, no changes there, so we'll just speed through it, using GTX Gaming's own PBO extraction and creation utilities. Go to the control panel and extract the PBO, go to the file manager and find and edit the server_monitor.sqf file, copying and pasting the line that they want us to add, extract the DZAI folder from the downloaded archive, and, well, at this point we would just straight up use FTP to upload it to the server, but before we do that, we may as well edit the configuration file and then upload it. So let's edit it now and discuss the changes that we're making. We'll just open up the DZAI folder that we're about to upload and navigate into the init folder, and then open up the DZAI_config.sqf file in our favorite text editor. The first and probably most important thing that will change is this value here, DZAI_humanity gain. By default, players receive 0 humanity from killing an AI bandit. For the playground, we're going to bump this up to 25. As we mentioned in the Oops introductory video, we eventually want to increase Z counts and make them walkers, meaning they'll be super easy to kill. To balance this, we're going to take the focus away from zombie kills for gaining humanity and instead give it to AI bandit kills. With no additional tweaking, humanity milestones on the hero side occur at 2900 to build a level 1 Origins hero house, 5000 to access the Epic hero trader, 6500 to build a level 2 Origins hero house, and 15,000 to build a level 3 Origins hero house. Starting at 2500 humanity and gaining 25 per bandit kill, this will allow players to build a level 1 Origins house after only 16 AI bandit kills, if all they do is kill AI bandits. They then will need 100 kills to access the hero trader, 160 to build the level 2 Origins house, and a whopping 500 kills for the level 3 Origins house. On their own, this would be a fairly harsh server, though some players out there may appreciate the challenge. But no worries, the Overpoch Origins Playground server isn't designed to be quite so harsh. We'll be dropping down the humanity gain from zombie kills in a later video from 5 humanity to 1 humanity per kill. So, Well, yeah, okay, it's still going to be a decent challenge to reach level 3 Origins house levels, even with slow, easy-to-kill zombies. But hey, did you realize that with only zombie kills and 0 humanity gain from bandit kills, which was the DZAI default, players would have still had to kill 2,500 zombies on a default server to be able to build the level 3 Origins hero house? So yeah, it's supposed to be quite the challenge, to be sure, and the Overpoch Origins Playground server will be no exception. Our players can use a mix of AI bandit and zombie kills to reach the needed humanity numbers, but AI bandit kills will be worth 25 times the amount as killing a single slow-walking zombie. The next change we'll make is to enable the vehicle patrols. We'll first set the value of DZAI_max heli patrols to 1 to enable a single helicopter patrol. However, we're going to tweak the respawn timers for these helis. Instead of respawning every 10 to 15 minutes by default, we're going to massively increase our time respawn to 2 to 4 hours, meaning our values will be 7,200 for DZAI_respawn T-min-A and 14,400 for DZAI_respawn T-max-A. This is really just for the immersion/authenticity factor, because really, bandits out in an apocalyptic zombie-filled wasteland should not have this constant stream of military-level air power getting tossed out every 15 minutes. The wide timing spread means that it'll be difficult to predict when the next one will be up in the air, but there is still a chance for players seeing up to 4 different heli patrols within a given 8-hour period. So yeah, it's not entirely realistic. It's about as realistic as being able to carry several multi-ton heli rotor assemblies in your backpack. But hey, we want the server to be fun to play on as well. We'll also add some AI bandit ground patrols, 3 of them to be exact, so we'll set DZAI_max land patrols equal to 3. Down in the DZAI_V list, we already have a single UAZ defined, but just to add a little bit of variety, instead of just increasing the number of UAZs to 3, let's add a blue Skoda, class name Skoda Blue, and also a pickup_PK_GUE_DZE, and we'll set both of those to 1 each. For their respawn timers, we'll increase them for the same reasons we increase the heli timers, but not quite so much. Instead of vehicles respawning every 10 to 15 minutes, as if bandits had control of a car manufacturing plant, we'll set them from 30 minutes to 2 hours. So DZAI_respawn T-min-L will set to 1800, and DZAI_respawn T-max-L will set to 7200. Okay, that's all the DZAI configuration we'll be doing for now. We can always go back in later and tweak these or any of the other values as we see how our server plays. But for now, we have some very common bandits on foot because we're using their default respawn values, semi-rare ground vehicle patrols from 4 to 16 per 8-hour restart period, and even more rare helicopter patrols from 2 to 4 per 8-hour period. We'll make sure to tell our text editor to save the changes that we just made, then we'll fire up our FTP client, navigate over to Archives, @DayZ_epic_server, Add-ons, and then upload our DZAI folder, complete with our edited configuration, right into there. Once it's uploaded, then let's not forget to go back to our TC admin control panel and click on Create PBO to repackage our server PBO. And then, as I keep saying so often now that some of you are probably getting sick of hearing it, start up your server and test your changes. Of course, it'll be tough to verify the multi-hour respawn timers, but remember that we've just installed DZAI itself, so at the very least, log in and see if any AI bandits are around. And guess what? During the making of this video, I tested it and there were no bandits. The error that I made was actually recorded, and I decided to keep it in the video. But then that brings up the question, did any of you viewers notice what it was? The problem was that I did not make certain that the server was properly stopped when I repackaged the server.pbo file. If you go back and watch that part of the video again, then you can actually see me doing it. Yeah, noob mistake. Oops. Because the server wasn't stopped, the PBO packaging attempted to overwrite the in-use PBO and failed, and all of my changes were lost. Luckily, it only took me 5 minutes to figure it out, install DZAI again, and get the server up and running correctly. And then some more testing showed that it was in fact installed and running correctly this time. But imagine if we had not stopped to test this, and instead moved forward with installing 1 or 2 or a half dozen more add-ons and scripts, and then fired up the server. Yeah, good luck figuring out which one of them is the real cause of the problem, eh? So it's with very good reason that I keep repeating, test your changes early and often. Now that we fixed that, things seem to be working well so far, so let's move forward with the next add-on, Walking Dead. As my other tutorial video stated, we'll have to search the GTX gaming forums to find the download link and install instructions for this one. A quick glance at the installation instructions shows us that the steps haven't changed, so we'll then just shut down our server, then we'll take the DayZ code folder from the zip file we just downloaded and extract it to our desktop, and then upload it to our server via FTP, and then we'll find the compiles.sqf file and make the 2 changes that the instructions asked us to make using the built-in FTP editor just because it's the most convenient. We don't need to do any other customizations to this add-on, so I'll just zoom through the video for these steps at 4x speed. And then, once again, let's fire up the server and make sure stuff didn't break. Do zombies now continue walking even if you run right up to them? Check. Are the other add-ons still okay? Like, are there still AI bandits around? Check. Okay, good enough for now. Okay, next add-on that we've covered in another video tutorial and that we want to add to the playground, Snap Building Pro. Google search time, and we'll head straight to its GitHub page. We'll start the download and then take a quick glance at the instructions again. It looks like we'll be adding 5 lines to the compiles.sqf and 1 line to description.ext. Same as before, so nothing new there. We'll shut down the server, extract the Snap Pro folder from the zip and upload it to our server at the correct location. Yeah, okay, you all know the drill by now, and there's always the original tutorial video that you can watch if you need a refresher. So, ramping up to 4x speed again. Wait, freeze it right there. Okay, this error is worth a brief mention before we go on. If you're ever trying to save and edit or upload something via your FTP client and you see an error similar to this, either error transferring file or the system cannot find the file specified, then the first thing to check is that you remember to stop your server, because that is the most likely cause by far. Even if you're sure that you did stop your server before, it'll only take a few seconds to check it again. It's especially an issue if you have auto restarts enabled. Remember back when we first had this problem earlier in this video? Some of you might have been thinking, but we saw you shut down the server already. And it is true. But in the time it took for me to do all the video recording, voiceover, script writing, editing, and so on, the scheduled server restart actually kicked in and started up the server again, which is why it was running even though we didn't specifically tell it to run. And guess what? That's exactly what happened while recording this part as well, which is why you see this error right now in this video. So I actually had to shut down the server again at this point, though you won't see it in this recording because it was done in another window. Anyway, problem fixed, carry on. And then, say it with me, fire up your server and test your changes. This is another easy one to test. If necessary, magic yourself up a toolbox, crowbar, e-tool, workbench, plot pole, a few walls, whatever you need to run a quick test. Then just make sure the Snap Building Pro menu shows up and that you can turn it on and make parts snap together. Finally, let's inject our quick little script that makes locked vehicles invulnerable when they're parked near plot poles. This is an easy one because it's just a script and it's installed in one of our MP missions files. The only key, again, is to make sure your server is shut down so that you can actually edit it. And of course, take a few minutes just to test it out after you finish adding it in. Since we're almost done, I'll spare you yet another video clip of in-game testing, and I'll just let you know that it was, in fact, tested and working properly. Excellent, and we are actually all done for Stage 1 of Stellar Firefly's Overpoch Origins Playground server. We have the core mod and map, and a bunch of the primary add-ons all installed. Overpoch Origins Taviana, DZAI, Walking Dead, Snap Building Pro, and Invulnerable vehicles. We've also performed the primary configuration for them, and tested them out so that we know that they are working. We can actually run the server as is right now, but we're not done yet, not by a long shot. It's playable, but it's not nearly as balanced as we'd like it to be. For example, right now it's pretty easy to farm up some humanity because of the slow, easy-to-kill zombies that are all worth 5 points apiece. Those zombies are also pretty much a non-issue still because they are so slow and because there are still so few of them. There's some good AI bandits running all over, but we don't yet have any major strongholds, and Sector B is still essentially a ghost town. And so on, you get the idea. And we'll be continuing to add and update the playground in future videos. If any of you needed refreshers on the various parts of this video, then remember that almost everything we've done has already been covered in one of my previous video tutorials. And here they all are for your convenience. Setting up and running your GTX DayZ all-in-one server. The update for using the new GTX one-click mod manager. Accessing your server files via FTP. Installing the DZAI add-on. Configuring the DZAI add-on. Installing the Snap Building Pro add-on, installing the Walking Dead add-on, and installing the Invulnerable Locked Vehicles Near Plot Pull script. And with that, thank you all for watching. Please don't hesitate to like or subscribe if you feel so inclined, and keep an eye open for the Stage 2 video as we further progress and enhance the Stellar Fireflies Overpoch Origins Playground server. And as always, good luck, have fun, and watch your back.